Welcome to the kbbreview podcast. I'm Andy Davies as always, and this is a very special bonus episode of the show where we'll be finding out all about our adopted retailer partner, Alku, the new range of kitchens from Getley. In our usual episode that came out yesterday, you will have heard our latest catch-up with our adopted retailers themselves, so today is the perfect time to learn more about Alku. I met up with marketing manager Dan Hughes recently, and in fact our conversation is as much about independent retail in general as it is about Alku, because it's a brand designed purely with them in mind. So I really do recommend this one to anyone interested in the market, as Dan really knows his stuff. Everything you need to know about them, including how to become a dealer, is at alku.co.uk. That's alku.co.uk. And of course, I'll put that link in the episode description. So let's hand over to me, and as you'll hear, I'm such a professional journalist that I persuaded Dan to meet me in my unofficial office. So Dan, here we are. We've decided that rather than doing this in a very formal interviewy kind of way, we've just come to the pub, haven't we?
Why go anywhere else to do an interview?
This is how we used to do it back in the old days.
Yeah.
6 hours in the pub, 1 hour in the office. That's how it used to work. But is it worth explaining exactly where we are now? Because it's very appropriate.
I would say we're in Kitchen Central, the famous Whitmore Street.
We are. We're in the Cock and Line on Wigmore Street, so we're a better place to talk about kitchens than in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick run through of, I'll just find out a little bit more about Getley, and of course the brands you've got launching, the brands you're working on at the moment, and then we'll chew the fat a little bit about the industry in general. So let's start at the beginning. Who are Getley? Give us a background if no one's ever heard of you before, if they've been living under a rock or something.
We've been around for a while, so you would have to have been living under a rock. But brief background, Getley was founded by Mark and Emanuela Getley back in 2006. It wasn't a manufacturer back then. It was actually a kitchen showroom, doing kitchens, bedrooms and bathrooms. Mark has a long history of doing various things. One of them was a shop fitter. He was also a kitchen installer. He had a technology business at one point, so it was pretty grounded when it comes to business. Then, as we know, the world went to hell in 2008.
Yeah.
And Mark was finding it really difficult to find a cabinet supplier because he's one of the old school. He's a components guy. He was finding it very difficult to find a supplier of cabinets that would do what he wanted, not just off the peg stuff, things where it needed a little bit of thought. 3 of the suppliers that he used to use also went bust around about the same time. It was that time. So being an ex-shop fitter, he knew what he was doing, and he started making his own cabinetry. That kind of started a snowball because local trades came in. Oh, you're making your own cabinets. Can you make them for us as well? So you were spending more and more time making cabinets and less time running the showroom. In 2009, at the absolute worst of the recession, Mark and Emanuela took the very brave move of putting everything they had on the line, getting an industrial unit in the centre of Stafford, and starting just manufacturing cabinets for kitchens, bedrooms and bathrooms. And that was the birth of Getley. From the very beginning, Mark being the perfectionist that he is, it was all about quality and service. No corners were cut. Everything was always done the best it could be. It was always for the customer to have a good experience, even if that meant delivering from one end of the country to the other on the day that the customer wanted. It was done. So since they launched in 2008, 2009, seen constant double-digit growth. The company has just gone from strength to strength to strength. Mark has surrounded himself over the years with a group that are very passionate about what they do, very experienced. I don't think there's any one of the board of directors that hasn't been in the kitchen industry for less than 25 years. They are all professionals with huge experience. As an example, our sales director started when he was 17 in Burbage spraying doors, so that gives you an idea of the depth of talent.
So it's entrepreneurialism mixed with experience, so skill, isn't it?
Exactly.
And when you get all those things combined, the outcome is usually pretty special, isn't it? And I think it's always interesting when you get a company that's driven by the founder. It's about his standards and his technique and his love for it and passion for it. That it does soak down into everybody else, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And that is how our entire place runs. Every business has to make money. That's its primary objective. But if you can enjoy what you do and you're passionate about it, it will lead to a better quality product, because people actually genuinely care if that job goes out right first time, every time, that every every panel is absolutely perfect and nothing's wrong with it. That's kind of where we are.
So let's talk a little bit about the brands that fall underneath that, because I think lots of people have seen the Alku brand popping up all over the place at the moment. You're doing lots of good work marketing that. Tell us about that brand and what the principles behind it are.
The genesis of the brand started back in 2019. The reason is that guys like myself and Mark, who've had showrooms and done components in the past, we are a dying breed. The younger generation of designers that are coming through now have only ever known completes. They don't understand what makes up a kitchen cabinet when you break it into its components. And at some point, we're going to start running out. Those guys are going to start, stepping back, retiring, not doing as much. We're going to lose that knowledge base. So we saw completes is the way to go. There will always be a component market, for sure, but completes is going to take over eventually. So the decision was made to launch a complete brand, and that was in 2019. So it was originally launched KBB in 2020. 2 weeks before we went into lockdown.
Yeah.
So again,
good timing.
Like the original Getley, the timing could not have been more perfect. So we recoiled from that, took on another factory because it was all coming out of the one factory. We split the two product lines completely because there is a difference, and set up a separate factory entirely just to deal with Alku and an entirely separate team. So that 18 months during COVID almost gave us the chance that we needed just to get things perfect. The ethos of it is very much the same as Getley. It's all about quality. It's all about giving customers what they need. So we will still deliver directly to site on the day that the customer specifies. We don't have deliveries in certain areas on certain days or on certain weeks. We're very flexible. The same as with Getley, we have weird and wonderful cabinets sent through by our customers. Although we've got an extensive product catalog, designers will be designers and they will want to tweak or do something a little bit different. So that's come over from Getley as well. We're constantly innovating. If there's something new, a new door style, we can react very quickly to it because we can prototype in our own factory, because the Alku factory's got the capability to manufacture its own doors. Right. It's got its own spray plant. So standardized colors don't exist to us. But if you want a bright orange kitchen, as I did, you can do a bright orange kitchen. It isn't a problem. So that whole thing. Sustainability, again, that came over from Getley. That's really big to us. Making sure that packaging, any waste that we produce is always either recyclable or it can be reused as fuel for the building. So the brand is a continuation of, with the same basic principles, but giving designers what they need to be able to design quickly and easily, but still maintaining the flexibility. Whereas if they want something special, all they've got to do is send us a drawing, we'll take a look at it. And I can't think of a time, unless it's dangerous or just can't be done, that we've had to turn around and say no. But even when it's no, there's still that wealth of knowledge from our sales staff that we will say, well, you can't really do that, but we can do it like this.
Okay, so talk me through the name. Where did the name come from and what does it actually mean?
So the name is Scandinavian and it means new beginnings.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice.
It was a brainstorming session and this was one of them that was put forward. This one kind of encapsulated what it was. It was a new beginning because it was taking something that we'd done and perfected for a very long time, but putting an entirely new direction on it. It was an entire new beginning, without emphasizing it again, for the business, because that's going to be, as I said, the future of the industry and the future of Getley.
Kitchen furniture, it's a very competitive market. There's lots of places you can get kitchen furniture from. That must have been part of the consideration when you're launching into something like this. It's finding your niche, I suppose.
Yeah, you're right. There are always going to be people that will do it cheaper. You're going to get the man in the van who will have panel saw in his garage who will knock up a kitchen cheaper than what we can do it. The difference is we can make pretty much anything you want. We can deliver it to anywhere in the UK on the date the customer wants. We can spray it any color you want. We always strive to use the highest quality components, even if that means importing, I think it was 10,000 of them we had to install a little bracket clip for the infill panels that we supply. Nobody in the UK sells it. So we had to import these things in bulk from Europe. We will go to those ends. So yes, when it comes to cost, we're not the cheapest. We're very competitive, but when you factor in service, which has always got to be a consideration, it's not always about cost. The service more than makes up for the extra cost.
It's always important to have British manufacturing as well, isn't it? I think that's a big part of this, as people like, particularly through COVID, as you described it, people really question the supply chain of things and of having different options rather than putting all of those in one basket. And having a company that can supply from the UK and make it here in the UK, really important.
I've got a strong opinion when it comes to British manufacturing. We've become as a nation almost quite critical of ourselves, and we don't give ourselves enough credit for British craftsmanship. This was brought to my attention when I was talking to a company that import or deal with imports into the UK. They were present at the Installer show last year. And I got chatting to the two ladies that were over from America. And they were saying that in America, the perception of British craftsmanship outstrips anything else. And when you think about it, the British engineering and craftsmanship of 60, 70 years ago, we were world leaders. And we haven't lost that. The craftsmanship is still there. The manufacturing base is still there. It's almost we've become critical of that, and we need to just refocus. We are very good at what we do in this country. We do have a care for what we make. That craftsmanship needs to be appreciated more than it is.
So you're not just a British manufacturer, Dan, you're a proudly British manufacturer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, quite right too. Alku and you are supporting our Adopted Retailer series, and it's one of my favourite things that we do, actually. I love following the stories of these guys. It really underpins to me just how important the independent retailing market is to you. Can you give us an idea of how it all fits into your ethos?
Independent retailers to us, and especially to me, because I've been there, are the backbone of this industry. You will not get a better service from any multiple or shed than you will get from an independent. They care about what they do. With very few exceptions, they are truly professional in what they do. Every service that you will get from them will be tailored to each individual client. There's none of this. I mean, it was a joke back in the day when I first got into this industry of the MFI layout with the built-under oven with the hob above it and two glass units either side and the stainless steel extractor with a flyover shelf, and that was every design. Everyone was exactly the same. It would be almost copy and paste there. You'll never get that from an independent. Every independent will sit down and they'll listen to their clients, and they might not be able to give that client everything they want because sometimes it's not doable, but they'll certainly go to the ends of the earth to make every single one of their clients as happy as they can. Speaking on a personal level, I am still friends to this day with some of the people I did kitchens for 10 years ago. You become very close because they're not just pounds and pence on the balance sheet. They're the next thing that you have to do right.
I always find it interesting that independent retailers is a sector built on personal service, as you quite rightly say. And I think when their levels of expectation of the people who service them is incredibly high. They set incredibly high standards. And if you're a supplier to them, and you fail in that service, then you're never going back. I think that's why it's important. If you get a company like yours that's run by guys who have been there and done that, you understand what the expectations are.
Again, it's one of those that because we do it so often, we don't always stop and just think about and appreciate the level of investment that a customer is putting into a kitchen.
Yeah.
You're right, their expectations are very, very high, but those expectations can certainly be matched. But it has to be matched all the way through, both up and down through the chain. If the design isn't right, if the showroom doesn't do their job, if the salesperson and the designer doesn't get it right in the first place, there's very little the manufacturer can do. But at the same time, if the manufacturer isn't putting in the R&D, they're not giving the designers what they need, the tools they need to be able to design. Because as I said, most of them don't understand components. They rely on us as manufacturers to take that component, make it work in a setting as a unit and say, there you go, there's the code for it. You can adapt it, you can change it, but that's your base where you start from. So there is this symbiosis between the showroom and the manufacturer and the showroom and can't be taken for granted. We've all got to work together to give the customer the best possible experience and the best possible quality.
Right, let's zoom out a little bit here because the market's had a difficult year. difficult 18 months, really.
Yeah.
What's your view of what the market is like at the moment, and what's your short-term crystal ball telling you about what's going to happen next?
I've always been a very positive person. So if there's a positive spin put on something, I'll find it and I'll do it. Was last year bad? Yes, it was. But it was bad compared to the previous years, which were the COVID years, which far outstripped anybody's expectations. Nobody could have seen that one come in.
Yeah.
We did predictions, and actually we were kind of growth where we needed to be last year. It wasn't as detrimental as it could have been. And I think as a group, we surprised ourselves with where we were at the end of the year. We exceeded our own expectations, if I'm honest. Yes, it was a bad year. Yes, we saw companies fail, but I don't think that's any different than any other part of this industry in any country. We've had a few really good boom years, and that's led to an overcapacity. And whenever you get into where you've got an overcapacity, at some point there's got to be a rectification of that.
The way people talk about the market, I don't think they take into account enough just how high the peak of the COVID boom was. And that's really what shapes the depth of the trough more than anything else, I think. It's because all you've really done is take all the kitchens that would have been spread across the period and concentrate them. What's really caught everyone out, I think, is just how long it's gone on for. Not necessarily the depth of it, it's just how long it's gone on for. And every time we turn the corner, people say, yes, that's it now, it's all going to improve. And then suddenly the next quarter is no better than the previous one. My personal view is that I think there are, I hate that phrase green shoots, but there are some real signs now of actually a slow return to normality. There isn't going to be a sudden acceleration, but it is going in the right direction. That's my own personal reading of the market. By the sounds of it, the optimist in you probably agrees.
Yeah, absolutely. See, I get a report from the sales office daily on what the figures are looking like, orders and quotes coming in. We track all this kind of stuff. So we've got a really good idea of not just what we're doing right now, but we can then get projections for what we're going to be doing in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks' time. What I'm seeing coming through, I'm very optimistic about.
Yeah.
We're not in for a bully year. Not like we did. We've got to be more realistic with what our expectations.
I think a realistic year is probably a really good way of describing it, yeah.
I think the acid test is going to be when the new budget comes into effect, because there's some big hits coming in there for manufacturers. That's going to have to be passed on somewhere, unfortunately, and that's going to mean price increases. We're not going to be having one in April, but we're certainly...
Yeah, I'm going to say it's realistic. Yeah.
It's got to be, it has got to be looked at as realistic. If we get past April and things continue to go, great. But we have got a certain amount of certainty, because last year with the general election, the American elections, everything that was going on, there was a great degree of uncertainty, and nobody really knew what was going to happen with energy bills coming into winter this year. Was it going to go sky high like it did last year? Everybody's kind of got used to that a little bit now, and things have settled down. So I think we're in for a good year.
Now, you are also a sponsor at our awards.
Yes, we are.
So I'll see you in Blackpool on April the 24th, along with the rest of the industry. Are you a Latin or a ballroom guy?
I'm a 2 left foot guy. My skills and talents do not go as far as dancing.
I think you're one of those people who says that, but then you'll be cha-cha-cha-ing with the best of them once you've had a couple of beers inside you.
The beers is the deciding factor on that one. But until that...
That's true. But look, Dan, thank you so much for spending us a bit of time today. It's really interesting stuff to hear your story. And thank you so much for all your support. And I'll see you in Blackpool.
See you then.